Give me 1 second. Okay, so we have a couple things to go over today. Nothing too like huge deal, no new material or anything. But I just wanted to mention a couple things. So over the weekend, I think it was Saturday or Sunday, maybe, I'm not sure. I posted a demo video for you guys of me drawing some really, really polished metal. So I have these like 3 chunky rings, and they're super shiny. And so I like polished them up really well, which is like oddly satisfying. And I just, I drew from them because they had all these reflections playing off one another, and they were really nice. And the rings are sort of imperfect to begin with. So there are a lot of like little facets that were creating really interesting reflections. So you can find that under the demo videos folder, and that you can just find that easily if you go to the course content page. So sort of where everything is. So in here, unfortunately, I didn't get it like finished completely, but I think it's still finished to a level that a lot of good points are kind of shown. So hopefully you guys find that helpful if you were struggling, or predict that you may struggle with drawing the mirror finished objects. Another thing I wanted to say is I have been having some like internet connectivity issues. So I apologize if my audio is choppy or my video is choppy. As far as I know, when I record these and then post them on Blackboard later, I think that the audio and video is clear. Nobody has told me otherwise, and they seem to be clear. So worst case, if I'm just completely dropping out and you can't hear me, just watch the video again and just clarify anything. But, and again, those are all the videos of the lectures and any homework explanations that I give. Those are in the Zoom call recordings folder, and that's just on the course content page. And I date all of them and just say like, homework and explanation, or homework explanation lecture is usually the title. So, feel free to review those. So you guys have that homework due on Thursday, and that is the the glass object, metal object, and then the two other objects that you add in to just kind of create reflections. So that'll be due, and we'll follow the same like format that we've been using thus far, which is just small group critiques. However, I do want to do, like, I'm going to start the class off by giving like a little explanation and assigning like the final project. So I've blocked off like 20 minutes of time at the beginning of class. So it's important that you guys get here for 11 o'clock as usual, just because I am going to give you some instruction on what to do for the final assignment, and like how that's going to go down and what day that's going to fall on. So that'll be explained all on Thursday morning, and then we'll just do the small group critiques after, which leads me to my next point, which is your critique group schedule, and that's going to be for Thursday. Just wanted to make sure. And so the 11 a.m. drawing, this is you guys here. This is for some reason, like didn't like register, it got a little off the registration. So just find your name on here. And as I said, first group starts at 11:20, so that we have time at the beginning of class. And if you don't see your name up here, also let me know, because I do occasionally just like miss people. So please just let me know. Yeah, so that is going to be Thursday. So that should be good. So what I want to do today with you guys is one more thing, actually. Sorry, I just remembered. So I mentioned last week, but I'll mention again, that Thursday, the 30th, which is also our last day of class when you guys have the homework due, that's the last day that I'll be accepting like any late work. So if you're missing homework assignments that you just like haven't passed in, you have to turn them in by that date. to receive any credit. They'll obviously be late, and you'll receive a deduction, but I will be accepting it later. Just like given this weird COVID situation, I've kind of relaxed my guidelines for late homework assignments. So please turn everything in that you're missing by the 30th, which is Thursday. And most of you guys are great about it. It's really not that many people that are missing. But if you're curious about whether you are missing assignments, you can go to the course content page and go to the assignments folder, and just scroll down in here, and just make sure that you submitted something for each of these. And if you're unsure about whether you think you may have submitted but you can't remember, like can't find your post, just send me an email. Okay. So all that being said, I'm going to take a drink. So what I wanted to do today, I know that a lot of you guys I know that some people like already submitted on the discussion board, but I did want to just do a quick live, not a full demonstration, but I wanted to give you guys a little bit of insight into me drawing a couple of metal spheres. So I just pulled these from the internet. Obviously, you guys will be working from life, so you have that advantage of being able to view these things from all sides, which is nice. And you can control your lighting a little bit more. So these are just some stuff. I don't know where I pulled them off the internet, but I liked that they were in pretty bright sunlight and they had like all of this landscape kind of surrounding them, but also some buildings and clouds and all that. So I started this in the other class. And I think that what I'm going to do is I've started to work it up, started to refine it a little bit. But what I think I'm going to do is I will erase like one of these spheres and just kind of reblock it in and just go through the steps with you guys, just so you can kind of understand how I got to this point. But I do want to check in real quick. Can you guys just give me some sort of like verbal confirmation that you can see my screen and you can see me like drawing on this?
Yeah.
I can see it.
Yeah.
I can see it.
Perfect.
I can see it.
Okay, thank you guys.
Balls.
What'd you say?
Fine.
Okay. So yeah, so I'm gonna just erase this and I'll just kind of show you my process for this. Thanks, Brendan. Cool. So let's see. One thing I wanted to mention, and this would be the reason for the white space occurring. I did like tone the ground. So if you guys remember in class, I may have shown you, and I did it in my last demo, but what I like to do is I like to sort of obliterate the white space from my drawings for the most part, especially when I'm drawing something smooth like this or something that has a lot of really subtle or complex light and shadow on it. I just find that it makes it, I don't know why, it just makes it more accessible to me, but I find that especially with drawing really reflective stuff and drawing clear glass especially, it just works really well. And then you can go back in and erase with your kneaded rubber eraser. You can kind of draw with that, so it's kind of cool. But so I'm just erasing this entirely, and obviously we have not a toned ground to work with, but I think that's fine. So the first thing that I'll do usually, and you can kind of just ignore all of these because they don't really play any part quite yet. So I'm using just like soft charcoal. I think you guys will remember from the last demo. I try to like keep it as close to drawing in real life as we can. So one of the first things that I'll do is you can see really clearly the reflections that are all around this, like the objects that are around this sphere, which is part of the reason that I chose it. So we talked about like finding that sort of picture within the picture, and this is a really great example of that. So what I'll usually do is I'll take my like maybe H pencil, 2H. I have this like awesome 2H pencil that I use for sketching. I usually do my base sketch in it, or I'll go back in and use it for like really, really fine detail, or if I want a lighter gray or something. But I will usually block in those large areas of things that I know what they are. So in other words, I know that this on the left is a building, and then on the other side it looks like this is a building as well. So I'm going to kind of like rough in those big blocks of tone because they're important, but it's also kind of important to look at them as large general shapes first, and then get into the detail later. So I'll just sort of delineate where everything is. And I'm noticing there's a reflection right here of a sphere. So I think it's this one over here. So I'm kind of noting where that is, and I'm noting that it's being distorted by the curve of the sphere. So we definitely want to kind of take that into account. And if you guys like have questions as usual as I'm going along, just shout them out. Get that sphere in there. And I'm seeing like a little cutaway right in here that I want to kind of block off right off the bat. That's lighter. So it looks like this is a reflection coming off of the other sphere here. So this reference image is deceivingly, I don't know. I looked at it and I was like, okay, like that's fairly straightforward. And then I got into this area in here and I was like, that's not straightforward because you're dealing with all of the reflections of the sky and like all this stuff. So it's like a lot of stuff to handle. So I'm going to kind of just take it one step at a time. But so another thing that I noticed right off the bat was this area over here. It looks like there's some brick in the foreground of this, obviously cropped off screen, but I am just going to kind of block that in. And it is like a little bit curved up here because of that curve of the sphere. So I'm going to account for that as well. But basically, I'm kind of like creating a map for myself. And I'm just noting where value changes are happening. And it's going to make it easier for me when I go to block in the values. And just kind of keep things separate for me a little bit. So I'm going to have to go back in there and refine some of these shapes too, but the gist is there. Okay, so I'm seeing like a little small building, I think, in the background. So I'm going to just have that in. I thought this was sort of a cool image. It's like, I don't know, I think it's a product photo for like, I'm not really sure what, but I just thought it was sort of intriguing. Okay. All right, so so that's what I do. So when I started off this drawing, you
Yeah, how you doing?
You would see like it would basically look like a coloring book. So I am going to now just start kind of blocking in some of the large areas of value. So just changing my brush size a little bit. And let's see. I'm going to start down here with this grass because it is pretty expansive and there's some important things that I want you guys to notice as well. So there is like a little bit of darkness that I'm seeing underneath the reflection of the sphere, which makes sense. But I also noticed that the bottom edge of the sphere down here where my cursor is, that is a little bit darker, which makes sense if you think about it. Because that's the edge, that's where it's turning and that's where it's like falling into shadow and going away from light. And it's also resting on the surface of the grass there, so it makes sense that this is like a little bit darker on the edges. So I am just going to kind of note that as well. But right now I'm just really focused on blocking in generally and, kind of quickly. So the buildings on the right over here, they seem to be a lot darker than the buildings on the left. I'm guessing that they are less in the direct sunlight. So I'm just I just upped the brush opacity so that it's gonna give me a darker mark. And I can see like up here, there's like a little tiny sliver of dark value of this wrapping around the top of the sphere, which I'll kind of deal with later, but I do notice that it's there. I'm gonna go ahead and bring down my brush size and And now I'm just going to get into here. So this looks like some sort of, I'm going to zoom in on that a little bit too, because I do want to kind of understand. That's not what I want to do. So I'm just going in here and I'm going to kind of use that little corner point of the building as an anchor point for myself, just like visually. And I know that these shapes are going to have to be refined. They're going to have to be smoothed out and fixed and adjusted, but it's a good start to get all this kind of in. And I always say to you guys, like, start with the general and then you get more specific as you go on. It's really hard to do that though. It's like sort of counterintuitive. Like I'm always tempted to just jump into those really tiny little details and I get caught up really easily in them. I think a lot of like new art students do, but it does make a difference. We need to like edit this situation over here. So I'm just going in and trimming some of this down because I made it a little bit too wide. And that's fine. So now at this stage, if this were my, actually, sorry, I just completely neglected this area over here that I definitely want to address. And I'm using the dropper tool. So like this obviously isn't something that we use in drawing class, but I'm just doing it for speed, just because otherwise I would have to go into my color mixer and I'm just pulling colors from my palette already, and that's fine. And I guess it's sort of comparable to using like a blender or something to blend on your paper and using that as a drawing implement. But obviously you guys don't unfortunately like have that capability, but that's not the biggest deal. So I'm just going in here too, and I am kind of just suggesting where the breaks in the clouds are, just sort of roughly. And so I did this one differently than I did these. So these had the tone on them already. So they had the tone on the paper. So what I did with those is I went in to the eraser and I turned down the opacity to sort of mimic that kneaded rubber. And I actually just pulled out some of the highlights like this, sort of like I were using my eraser on the paper. And it works quite well, but you can see it's, I mean, you get the same effect, but you can do it a couple different ways. Okay, so I just want to go back down here and darken this up a bit. I'm going to darken this whole area up a little bit. Okay. All right. Cool. So now that I have this sort of locked in, I'm actually going to gray that down a little bit. At this stage, what I would do if we were, or if I were working on this like an actual drawing, 1 second. So I don't know what those are made out of, Jordan. I'm assuming that they're some sort of metal, just like a polished metal. It's a good question. Anyone can jump in if you know the answer, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure what they're made out of, but they are really interesting. I don't necessarily know that they were made for artists exclusively. I'm not really sure. I thought maybe photography, but
Yeah, well, I was thinking, I don't know, they kind of look like familiar, so I was thinking like, not maybe that they're made for art, but if maybe it's like a common thing that artists like go grab and like use.
yeah, I know that. I
For
know.
like really like high up there artists that are like doing nice photos like these.
Yeah, I think that like I know a couple of photographers that do use like metal like or reflective objects. Like some people use those they like, it's like a crystal, but it makes like rainbows or whatever on your image, and like you can use it in photography. It's like, I don't know, it's like, it's kind of cool, but yeah, I'm not sure what the exact use of them is, but they do seem sort of familiar. I agree. They kind
Yeah.
of remind me of like the those like yard, like the lawn decorations that you see
I
sometimes.
was just thinking that.
Yeah.
Like something for your lawn. They're pretty like fragile, so
Yeah.
it kind of like it wouldn't be far off to say that they're used for art because it doesn't look like they have much other purpose. You know, they probably are just like for like to sit and like look nice.
Yeah, I have no idea. No idea. But yeah, they are kind of soothing to look at. So what I would do right now if I were drawing is, these are pretty smoothed out. Like I would go in and I would bring in my blender. So I look at the pointed. This is the pointed paper stump brush. So I'm going in, and what I would do is I would just kind of smooth out like all of these areas where I can see any of the like strokes. Not to say leaving your strokes in there is necessarily wrong. It's not. I just I like to smooth everything out, and I think that with this really really smooth shiny orb, it makes sense to kind of like smooth everything away. So that's kind of what I would do. And at this point, now that I've got all of these general values in here, I would go in and I would start to refine them a little bit. So I would go in and kind of start to, and obviously like you could start, it doesn't, it doesn't really matter where you start, but I would just want to get in there and get a little bit more specific with some of the shapes. So I'd probably go in and I would start to kind of carve away some of this extra value that I put down, and kind of just replicate what I'm seeing over here a little bit more clearly, because right now it's like a little bit off, and that's fine. And to do this, like I would say, if you're using pencil, probably an H pencil or like a B pencil or something that's like relatively hard graphite, and will kind of like hold a point a little bit, because these particular, like the spheres in this image obviously are super smooth, but if you're drawing anything with any like divots or complex surfaces, like I found this chrome skull that I just thought was really cool. I had originally thought of drawing this, and then I was like, there's no need to go that hard, you know, kind of thing. But I also, like, I don't know, I was just really drawn to it. But there are obviously a lot of really intricate little divots and like bone, like, I don't know, areas where it juts out and it's like concave and then convex and it wraps around, whatever. So what I would do like at the very end to sort of to sort of like further the illusion of a really shiny chrome skull is, I'll probably take my pencil and I would go and I would really like firm up those divisions in the value areas. So like over here, I would like really emphasize, you know, these transitions where they're like really hard. You can see they all have hard edges. And so I would go in and make sure they're not too blended and they're like clear divisions. There's like, there's this artist that I'm trying to think of his name actually. And he always paints these like chrome skulls. I mean, I think there are many artists who do that, but there's one I follow on Instagram. I'll have to think of it. But yeah, I think that the success of his drawings comes not only from like his ability to replicate the values really, really successfully, and also like he's understands the human skull is, you know, it's obviously kind of a niche object. You guys wouldn't necessarily be drawing something like this, but I think it sort of like that artist that I showed you in the slideshow, the success comes from his really harsh divisions in his value areas. So it just kind of conveys that shiny, glossy surface really well. And then at the end, I think that I would go in and like on this skull, especially where it's like a little bit more complex, but I would probably take my kneaded rubber eraser, or like I have this really thin pencil looking eraser, and basically it's like you click it like a retractable pen, but it's an eraser, so it's really tiny. It can get really precise. So I probably go in there and kind of accentuate with some of those like very, very bright lines that reflect that glossiness. But yeah, that's sort of like how I would start. Obviously this is like a little bit rough, but and it needs some refining. But you know, from this point out, it would just be sort of me going back in, hardening up some of those divisions a little bit, and really just like looking at what's being reflected too, because obviously there's some complexity in here too that needs to be worked out that I didn't really get into too much. Just because it would take a long time, and I'd probably have to go in and really zoom in here and see what exactly was being reflected. But I think this is sort of like the gist of it. So that'll be, you know, this will be drawing reflective metal. That'll be a piece of the homework that'll be due on Thursday. Does anybody have any questions about any of that? Okay, so let me just minimize then. Okay, cool. So so I just wanted to say like a quick word or two about Thursday. So obviously we're gonna have that homework due, and we'll do the small crit group. So again, I'll put those back on screens for anybody that may have come in a couple minutes late. This is the critique schedule for Thursday. And you'll notice they don't start until 11:20, and that's because I would like everybody to kind of meet first. I can give you the prompt for the final drawing assignment, and we'll just kind of talk about how that's going to go, because Thursday is our last class, which is wild.
Really?
Yeah, so so we'll kind of talk a little bit about that and about the final project. And I'll give you the details on, you know, what I'd like to be in that final drawing that you do, but I don't want you guys to worry too much about it, because like it's just another drawing assignment. It's not an exam, but I do want you to take your time with it. And again, I'll go into that more on Thursday. I'm kind of holding back on assigning it because you have something due Thursday and you have critiques. So I don't want to give you the critique groups and the guidelines just for fear of confusion. And then you'll have plenty of time to work on the final drawing, because our final date isn't until May 12th, I believe. I'll double check for sure, but I'm pretty sure that's what it is. But yeah, so does anybody like have any questions about any of that stuff that I just kind of talked about or talked at you guys? Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'll just be available as usual if you guys want to either ask questions to me, like or if you want to do like a video critique or anything like that, I'm available for that. So please don't hesitate to reach out. And yeah, I think that's all I've got for you guys today. I really do appreciate you guys, you know, coming to class, doing the check-ins. It's really important, and I recognize that you guys, that we're all losing a lot from not being in the classroom. So I think it's like, I appreciate it. I appreciate you guys like showing up. So yeah, then I think that's all I've got for you guys today. I will let you go. If anyone has any further questions, reach out. Brendan, got a chat. We appreciate, oh, thank you. So yeah, so I think that is it, guys. I will talk to you soon. Stay healthy, stay, you know, well and positive, hopefully. I know it's like so hard, but I hope that you guys are all doing well, and I will talk to you all soon. Okay.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you.
No problem.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys. See ya.
Alrighty.
I entered my my drawings.
Oh, you did? Awesome. Oh, that's great news. Which one did you decide? Or did you enter a few?
So I entered my ink wash, my basket, and then the blanket. And then I I kind of kicked myself for jumping ahead of the game because I did a piece for my 3D class,
Oh yeah.
and I got some really great feedback on that, and I was like, oh, I should have entered that, but it's fine. They put it up on the Instagram page for
Yeah. Yeah, I saw that. So can you only is there like a limit on how many things oh, okay, gotcha.
yeah.
Um, oh, sorry, I'm just getting a chat from Abby. Yeah, that's awesome. I'm really glad to hear that you did. Yeah, I think it's great. I think it's awesome that they're doing that and, kind of keeping everyone connected.
Yeah.
But yeah, those are really strong pieces, all of them. So that's
Thank you.
awesome. Yeah, awesome.
All right, well, I'll see you Thursday.
Yes. All right. Thanks, Melissa. I'll see you on Thursday. Bye. Bye-bye. Oh, sorry, Abby. I didn't know your name was missing. I thought I put you on there. I think I moved you. Okay, let me just kind of put you into a group. Okay. All right. So I'm going to put you with at 12:05, and you will be with Cassandra, Becca, Justin, and Abby. And sorry, you're Abby, but you'll be with those three. Okay, awesome. Thanks, Abby.